DevOps admin David from Trivial Solutions IO here. And today, this will be a very, well, hopefully I think it will be short, but a very pragmatic video about something very important, I think, to every infrastructure DevOps engineer. It's getting things done fast. And this will not be like these. There are lots of these like philosophical, like I meditate. Some guy says like, I don't know, I code in the morning or whatever. I don't know, I'm not saying that these things don't work, but I'll just show you my strategy, which I learned through blood and sweat of getting things done a lot faster in the infrastructure or in programming languages in general. But for programming languages, this is not as bad, I think, as for infrastructure components. And I'll talk about problems that we face in infrastructure as DevOps engineers in day-to-day work. So what are our problems? You don't have a debugger. So, well, the debuggers are quite popular, like in games or in desktop applications, right? Or, you can debug also Golang applications easily, or Rust applications. But, usually if you deploy infrastructure, you can't really easily debug. Like, you can't really easily attach, can I stop this, entire Linux kernel and say, what is variable here? Well, maybe there is such thing, like, I don't know, I didn't search for it, but usually you just try one thing, another, and it's a lot harder to debug stuff, right? Just like infrastructure components, then when you have like, in real programming language, you add breakpoints, you add like print lines or whatever. Well, you can raise logging levels here, but I think it's a lot more subtle that you need to through trial and error, you find out if things work or not. Well, at least I personally do it this way, right? And of course, there's no compilation in the infrastructure. What today you usually have a lot of YAMLs, right? And it's very easy to make any mistake in YAML in any part of your pipeline or your provisioning tools or whatever, or in Terraform. It's easy to make mistakes, like a typo or whatever, right? And then things don't work, right? Some connection doesn't work from server A to server B. What's wrong? Well, why doesn't it work? It's not trivial to figure these issues out, right? And another thing, like, you can add infrastructure tests, right? But you have a test that you make this HTTP requests to the service and it doesn't respond, right? It says like, connection refused. So why is it that? Is it because of server firewall? Is it because, like, say, AVS security groups? Or is it because, like, there's simply no connection and no peering between VPC subnets, right? Or it could be like N reasons why this doesn't work. So just saying that, yeah, it tells you high level that things are not working, but you still need to dig down, figure out why. And it's not always trivial, right? So my strategy, solution, how I do things these days, and I noticed it gets you where you want a lot faster. So solutions is remove all security. Like, what? No, remove all security. What are you talking about? Let me finish. Right. So I'll demonstrate, like, workflow. Say you need to build an infrastructure. Say you're building a Nomad cluster, like with Vault, with console, all the good stuff, and you want security, ACLs, and everything. So there are two ways you can achieve this, right? So you can have this, like, you do everything at once. Say you provision with Ansible. This is Nomad. You provision TLS. You provision ACL, right? Then you provision, like, what is there? There are more things that I forgot. Oh yeah, there's like encryption for gossip. There's console, same. Console. And there's TLS for console.
there's encryption, there's also ACL, same with vault, TLS, encryption, and tokens, policies, whatever. So, and you implement all of this at once. You work like for, I don't know, you work for a month, and you provision stuff, and try to deploy it and test it, and guess what? Things don't work. Like 99% of the time when you bite a lot, like all of these components at once, and you try to implement, okay, all these encryption keys, like all these certificates and there's a lot of stuff going on. This takes a lot of time, right? And you'll probably not get this right the first time. And then when you debug, right? So what did you do wrong, right? Is it TLS on Nomad? Is it TLS on console? Are these ACL permissions wrong? Maybe you didn't bootstrap, didn't initialize Nomad ACL. What's wrong? What doesn't work? It could be any number of these cases, right? So not to deal with this state, you either need to read documentation, know it by heart, read it 7 times, know every detail, go very carefully through code and catch the mistakes by eyes. Or what I do to avoid such issues, right? So I implement just in the start, disable Nomad security, disable all the console security, right? And all the vault bare minimum security, right? And then chances are, Nomad is very simple. You can deploy it, I deployed when I first started using it. It took me a day or two. It's without security, anything. And now you have a working state, right? So now things will probably work together because you didn't have to do all the complicated stuff. So now, do we go to production? No. So now we can start actually making our setup secure. So how do we do things? Small baby steps, right? We have a working state now. So now we focus on, say, Nomad ACL, right? ACL for Nomad. And what's the difference between this, when you try to do everything at once and it doesn't work, versus this? Here you have a working state, and here you can zone in into documentation, perfectly target, read everything very carefully about ACLs, then focus and figure out what you need to change, how you need to bootstrap it, right? And then what if something doesn't work? Okay, say you do this change, it doesn't work. You know exactly in Git what they changed. You can really quickly review those changes against the documentation, everything. And you can really zone in here, focus here until you figure this out. And okay, once you figure this out, you don't have a huge search space like here, while all these things could be wrong. You have only to look here, what you changed. What did you change that now things don't work? And chances are, right, you figure this out, then you solve this. Okay, we solved the Nomad, then we can do the same for console. ACL console. And then you keep going. One by one, you zone in, right? Then you add TLS for Nomad, and then TLS for console. Then you add vault integration for Nomad, right? Then, of course, then you might, and I lost a little bit of train of thought there, but you get it. It's a lot better doing things like remove all security, or say in Terraform. I did AVS. Whenever I do AVS, it's already hard, but if I didn't do this, it would be a lot harder. So usually what I do is disable all security groups, allow all traffic, right? Except internal traffic, but you do bare minimum from security perspective and small baby steps. Then you restrict, very specific. Then you add security group that restricts only such service, so that it would be only able to talk to that service, and if things stop working, you know exactly what change caused that. So yeah, so I don't personally like being super deep into documentation of everything. Usually what I try to do is just, get things working, and keep going with a day, right? So like I don't want to become a super ultra master of say AWS cloud. So this approach allows me to get something running quickly, right? And then add baby steps, all the missing components, one by one by one by one, where I focus on exactly that component, and usually I get things done a lot faster this way, because I know the problem search space is a lot smaller than as if I try to bite everything at once, and usually a lot of things just don't work. So yeah, so that is my very pragmatic tips on how to get things done quickly. Let's check if I forgot here. Oh yeah, so I mentioned this. Yeah, so you do small baby steps, and the most important thing is what motivates me very much personally, always have a working state and know you can get back to a working state. So you have this is working. If you make changes, things don't work, then you know you can revert and still have working state. It's very motivating, as opposed to, I've been in a lot of situations where you just like do things with Terraform and things don't work, and it's maybe some security group, maybe it's like AWS IAM permissions or something like, and it's very demotivating. It drains your soul when things don't work and you don't know why. So it's very important to have a working state, and also everything is allowed in development. So first I want, before I like ship it, the final thing, the final latest and greatest, all the extra stuff like say logging or extracting like say Terraform variables, making them nice, like from variable file like inputs, all these like they're nice to have, like, but they're a little bit bureaucracy. So during development, when I'm in this process of just getting stuff done, I just ignore all of these, most of these rules, and just, I hard code subnets, right? I hard code ports, I hard code values, right? Then once I get this, I go through all these steps of getting my infrastructure where I want it to be, right? Well, of course, if it's like you continue, this is like if a big project and it's a big deliverable, right? So I can ignore this, but if you're continuously shipping, then it doesn't apply. Of course, you need to commit tidy working state. But if I have a big project like making entire infrastructure, right? I do things like baby steps, right? One by one, I hard code values, I ignore most of the rules, then I get things working. It doesn't look nice, it's not the nicest painting, and then I polish. Then I have a working state, then I move out variables, then I refactor, then I yada yada yada, and you'll be a lot more motivated and doing things a lot faster than when okay, I got this working, then it's easy to refactor. As opposed to, you're doing things like real time and you're trying to do everything right the first time and things don't working, and then you're really demotivated and it drains your soul, right? So I try to get things done, the functional features, as fast as possible, ignore all rules, hard code stuff, like have as little security as possible until you added all that you want in the baby steps. And then once you finish functionality, then you tidy, refactor, then finishing touches, like see, this is polish, and you're done, right? And then it's usually a lot easier and things go a lot faster once you do this way. Well, personally for me, my experience is that for me, this doesn't work at all. If I do like 10, 20 things at once in one infra, usually things don't work. But for me personally, what works really well is doing small baby steps, right? And then zoning into every baby step, and then you can get it done quickly. And it's not slower. Of course, if you account for debugging time, it's not slower doing this, So yeah, so this is my secret tricks on how to get things done fast as a DevOps infra engineer. So this has been David from trivialsolutions.io, and I'm signing out. Peace.